The year is 2010, and in between listening to Panic at the Disco, watching Breaking Bad and Archer, and smoking copious amounts of weed and popping the occasional ecstasy, I'm just finishing the third book of the Night Angel trilogy. And over the next decade, I read the trilogy a dozen times, maybe more in fact, and I come up with all sorts of theories as to what the next book would be, never thinking that Brent Weeks would actually write it. Fast forward to about a week ago, where after 13 years, I finally got to see what was in store for Kyler Stern and Viridiana Sovare. Finally able to see all of my wildest dreams and theories come true, and I couldn't have been more wrong about everything. After just the first chapter or two, it was like Brent Weeks was like, "No, you fucking moron, you think I'm gonna give you a happily ever after? In the Night Angel world? This is my world, bitch!" Hey, those are his words, not mine. I could not have been more surprised by what I found in this book, and before I go much further, I gotta let you know that I'll be spoiling some story elements of the original trilogy, but will not spoil anything from Night Angel Nemesis. If you came here wondering if you can read Nemesis without reading the original trilogy, the answer is no. You gotta read that first, and I highly, highly recommend that you do. I mean, if you like reading about murder. Night Angel Nemesis picks up about 9 or 10 months after the events of Black Barrow from the end of Beyond the Shadows, and things are not going well for Kyler Stern. He has distanced himself from everyone around him, even had a big fight with Durzo, who is nowhere to be seen. He hasn't talked to Logan or Vi in months, but seems to have some contact with Mama K, who sends him on a mission to kill Trudana Jadwin. We get a great opening scene with emo Kyler infiltrating Lord Rephaim's estate to kill the necromantic sculptress, and we quickly realize this book is going to be dark. I'm not going to spoil what he does here, but I don't recommend eating before reading the chapter. Events transpire and he ends up at Logan's Keep trying to prevent Mama K from taking blame for one of his kills, after which he gets roped into finding an ancient artifact to protect everyone from an evil about to rise up, the Shadow Compass. Now, I know what you're thinking. Seriously, a magical MacGuffin? And let me just tell you, you have no idea where this story is headed. Just let it cook. Let it cook? Is that the phrase? What all the kids are saying nowadays? No, I'm cool. I'm still hip. I am. So telling you much more of the plot would head into spoiler territory, but there's a lot more going on here than you'd think, even in the first 2 or 3 chapters. But I really want you to see it for yourself. So instead, what I'll do is talk about some unique things this story has going on compared to the first trilogy. If you've ever read Name of the Wind, Empire of the Vampire, or Blood Song, you understand the idea behind a framing narrative. And that's exactly what's going on here. We don't get a third-person view through 6 or more POVs looking at a bunch of different characters. Instead, the whole story is told by third-person POV Viridiana reading Kyler's journals left behind after he went missing and presumed dead. The rest of the story is from Kyler's first-person perspective of all the events that transpired in the journal. It does take some getting used to, and I'll put a graphic on the screen to help you understand a little bit more. Sorry, wrong graphic. I meant to put up this one. This shift in storytelling is interesting because not only do we get Kyler's direct thoughts, but also during the main events of the story, he's narrating the whole adventure to the Kakari, which will then presumably put everything into a memoir, which is what Vi is reading now. Kyler is aware that others will be reading this story someday, so he addresses the reader directly, breaking the fourth wall, calling them out for wanting to experience his dark tale vicariously, but not being willing to commit dark acts themselves. It's very meta for those of us that enjoy devouring grimdark books, but it's done in a really smooth way that has narrative relevance, and I really liked it. The switching between Kyler's journal and Vi's third-person thoughts and actions in the present-day story is really seamless and actually reminded me specifically of how it's handled in Empire of the Vampire. Like I said, it was just a little bit jarring at first, but you quickly get used to it, and if you know about how the timeline works going in, you'll be totally fine. Another thing that's done a little different is Kyler is kind of a different character in some ways in this book. He's not too far removed from the death of Aline, so he's still dealing with a lot of the baggage from that, and it makes him kind of a moody, dour character throughout a lot of the book. Rather than his usual snarky and almost juvenile self, you can tell that he's had to grow up a lot over the past 10 months or so and isn't quite ready to let himself be happy again. That being said, nothing substantial has really happened between him and Vi since the ending of Beyond the Shadows. I had just assumed that they would be together now after a period of mourning, since Aline had directly told both Kyler and Vi that she wanted them to take care of each other in every way. But that hasn't happened, at least not yet, and the rest of the book isn't sunshine and rainbows either. When you go into this book, be prepared that it's going to be super dark and unforgiving, and it's going to show you the reality of the fallout from Black Barrow. That's not to say that it's all brooding and misery though. There's still Brent Weeks' sense of dark humor throughout, and all the characters are really well fleshed out as always. There's tons of mystery and intrigue and lots of assassin goodness, so let's talk about what I liked. First of all, like I said, I've been waiting for this book for a long time, so it was like water in the desert just getting to be back in this world with these characters. I love the Night Angel trilogy so much, and I honestly didn't really know if we'd ever get another installment, because for a while it seemed like Weeks didn't have any plans to go back to the story, but I'm so glad he did, even if it wasn't quite what I expected. As some of you might know, Vi is one of my top 3 favorite characters in all of fantasy, might even be my number 1, and I was super happy with how much Vi we got in this book. We get her present day chapters as well as Kyler bumping into her in his story as well. She never overshadows Kyler, and there's just enough of her to leave you satisfied. The story itself was action-packed, and I really felt like it kept me on my toes, not knowing what the next surprise was going to be. The ending had a massive twist and gut punch and was everything I expect from a Night Angel book, but it also felt like the story had grown up in a lot of ways, just as Brent Weeks has kind of evolved as an author. I could go on and on about what I loved from this book, and I could also mention things that I didn't like quite so much, but most of them are directly story related, so if you've already read the book, you can see our spoiler thoughts in our Night Angel Nemesis discussion episode on our channel, which will pop up in the annotations up there. My first and probably biggest disappointment is that somebody decided not to use the narrator from the original trilogy, Paul Bomer, for this new trilogy, The Kyler Chronicles. In my opinion, Paul Bomer is the voice of Kyler and everyone else in the cast, and I have no idea why they wouldn't use him again. There has to be some publishing reason, I imagine. And Simon Vance isn't a bad narrator overall, but I think that he just wasn't quite right for this book, and a lot of the fans are wondering what happened to Paul. The other thing is, the story was always entertaining, but it did take a long time to get going. For a long while, it didn't quite feel like a Night Angel book, and I think there's kind of a narrative reason for that, with Kyler being out of sorts for most of it, but it also felt like it was a lot of traveling and waiting for Kyler to get to the good stuff. But the story picks up when the whole heist aspect of the book starts about halfway through, and there's a specific chapter later on that specifically made me think, okay, this is Night Angel. This is what I remember Night Angel being. So try not to be too worried about it and have a little patience with this book. All in all, this is definitely a recommend from me. Obviously, if you love the original trilogy, then going on to Nemesis is a no-brainer because it is the direct continuation of the original story. However, if you simply liked Night Angel and liked the way that it all wrapped up, then that's totally fine too. You could definitely wait until the next book or two is out and then decide based on what reviews are saying at the time. I think you guys will be surprised by the shift in the way that the story is told and the overall feel of it. but I think you'll still enjoy it nonetheless. All of us on the podcast kind of went through our own range of emotions throughout most of the book, but came away happy with what we read and excited for the next one. And in an interview Brent did this week, he said that he's currently writing the next one, and it sounds like he's making pretty good progress, so we may not have to wait that long for it. It sounds like his head is firmly back in mid-cryo and is committed to giving us more of this story. But I'm excited to hear what you guys think. Are you planning on reading Nemesis? Or if you already have, what did you think about it? Could you tell that Brent's writing style had changed much from the previous trilogy, or did it feel pretty much the same to you? Let us know down in the comments, but do me a favor, and if you're gonna talk spoilers, then give your comment a spoiler warning and hit that enter key a few times, or head over to our Nemesis podcast episode and talk spoilers there to your heart's content. You can also reach out to us on Twitter or Discord linked in the description. And speaking of stuff that's linked in the description, we just started a Patreon page to help pay for some of our monthly channel expenses like editing software and music licenses. If you'd like to support us over there, we'd really appreciate it. There's only a few member rewards right now, but we'll have some exclusive content coming to Patreon once we get some members over there. And really, it just helps support us since right now we pay for everything ourselves out of pocket, and it gets really expensive sometimes. But that's gonna wrap us up for today. Feel free to subscribe if you enjoyed this content, like the video and all the YouTube stuff. That helps us out maybe even more than the Patreon, so we appreciate all of you that do that. Thanks for watching, stay in the shadows, and we'll see you in the next video. And a big shout out to our first Night Angel tier patron, Shad Zaman. I hope I'm saying that right. Thank you so much, man.